if you set out on a crazy journey to make a shoe out of wool, and in doing so found a way to make footwear that was more comfortable than, well, everything? So I know what you're thinking. Why wool? Because it's the world's most miraculous fibre. Inspired by these guys, we found a way to turn one of the world's most amazing renewable resources into a wickable, breathable, comfort experience that's like being upgraded to first class. We dispense with flashy logos, unnecessary detailing, and a focus on synthetics to create something we think the footwear industry has been crying out for. Something better. The major myth about wool is an easy one, so let's hit it quick. When you think wool, you think hot and scratchy, right? Wrong. This is a completely different ballgame. No offense to the team here, but we're not talking about the jumper your grandma knitted you. Oh no, our superfine merino fibre is 80% finer than a human hair. So it doesn't matter that most sneakers are made from synthetics and synthetics are made from dirty old oil. We think it matters. That's why we're using something renewable instead. Now don't just take my mum's word on this comfort thing. Take 30 days, try the shoes, and make up your own mind on what's real and what's, well, not. Now you're welcome to try and catch a sheep and make your own pair, but probably best to leave that to the experts.
These are Allbirds. The unassuming wool sneakers have taken the world by storm, starting with the feet of tech titans in Silicon Valley and reaching both the streets of Hollywood and of Middle America. So how did a simple shoe win over the feet of millions and turn into a billion-dollar company? It all started with a New Zealand soccer player.
Or football, where I was from.
Tim Brown was a professional football star. His 8-year career included a trip to the 2010 FIFA World Cup. Sponsored by major sportswear companies like Nike and Adidas, Brown was never a huge fan of the flashy sneakers.
Shoes were over-logoed, over-coloured, and it was very, very difficult to find simple. I didn't grow up on a sheep farm. I didn't grow up dreaming of one day starting a footwear brand, but I had a personal problem and I set out to try and find a solution.
Brown retired from soccer in 2012 and moved to London to go to business school at the London School of Economics, where he developed his idea for a simple, sustainable sneaker. Brown worked with a group of New Zealand government agricultural scientists to come up with a patented wool material that was strong enough for a shoe and still comfortable. The result was a superfine wool from the South Island of New Zealand.
The wool we used is normally made into fine suits for Tom Ford, Armani and Gucci.
The soles of Allbirds are made of rubber and foam. With a handful of samples made, Brown launched a Kickstarter campaign.
Inspired by these guys, we found a way to turn one of the world's most amazing renewable resources into a wickable, breathable, comfort experience that's like being upgraded to first class. The campaign took off, and in 4 days we sold $120,000 worth of shoes. I had to stop the campaign because that was all the material that we had. You celebrate for a split second and then you realise that, gosh, there's an enormous amount of work to do and an enormous amount of expectation that's come on the back of this little bit of success I've had.
With hundreds of shoes he now had to produce, Brown needed a partner with experience establishing a supply chain. Enter Joey Zwillinger. Zwillinger is an industrial engineer and a Wharton graduate. His wife and Brown's wife were college roommates and introduced the pair.
He had a wool shoe prototype. I thought people were gonna love it.
We got together famously over one weekend. Joey cooked me a lamb stew, which was my first taste of his sense of humour. And it really was a discussion about purpose. And on the 1st of March 2016, Allbirds was born.
Right out of the gate, Allbirds got some glowing reviews. And early on, some of Allbirds' biggest fans were in the tech crowd. The Wool Runner became part of the casual office uniform at startups and VCs, and leaders like Google co-founder Larry Page and former Twitter CEO Dick Costolo wore them. Allbirds have made their way onto the feet of Hollywood stars and politicians. But for Brown, there was one famous fan who stood out.
I got a call from my mum one day back in New Zealand who said, Allbirds has officially made it.
The New Zealand Prime Minister had met the Australian Prime Minister for the first time, and she gifted him a pair of Allbirds.
It was pretty special for a Kiwi who is a long way from home, who's very, very proud of where he comes from.
Brown says Allbirds sold its 1 millionth pair just 2 years after officially launching in March 2016. The company did roughly $80 million in revenue last year and will nearly double that amount in 2018. And taking into account outside investment, Allbirds is valued at a whopping $1.4 billion. Allbirds is still far behind sneaker giants like Nike, but Allbirds' rapid rise has not gone unnoticed by rivals. A growing demand for knit wool sneakers drove a 30% spike in the price of wool in 2017. And Allbirds even sued shoemaker Steve Madden in 2017, claiming they knocked off the signature wool runners.
We realise we're in a really competitive category. And the hope is that as people copy us, they copy the use of sustainable materials as much as the look.
Allbirds is expanding its product line and using different sustainable materials like eucalyptus and sugarcane.
We're a material science company and a material innovator. More than anything, we happen to make shoes.
It's about finding better ways to make stuff. Sometimes the assumption with innovation is it's about adding lots of things and bells and whistles. In the case of footwear, we were asked often in the early days, why does the world need another shoe? Sometimes innovation can be about taking things away. It can be whispering when everyone else is screaming.